Cliff?
Yep.
What day are you in the office next week?
Next week, every day.
Okay, good. So I got an issue with the laptop. It's not a big one, just I need to handle it.
Sure.
Also known as the party's over.
The party's over because it's been a real party, right?
Augie, did we send Neil Desai a participant code or an attendee code?
Participant.
Okay, thank you.
Once we see him, we'll let him in as an active person.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, we're live on YouTube.
Neil?
Hi. Hey, Neil.
Hey, Neil.
Get my put some light on here.
I've got 1 minute. Well, board trustees there?
Yes.
And whenever Tom gives the word, I'll start broadcasting the meeting so everyone can join.
Stop broadcasting.
All right, starting now.
Okay. Good evening, and welcome to the 5 p.m. Board of Trustees work session for June 22nd, 2020. We are still working through Zoom in a time of COVID. I need a motion to open this meeting.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Dan and Nora, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All righty. The first item on the agenda tonight is comprehensive plan update. And NV5, this is the company we used to do the comprehensive plan, is going to give us an update. And Mr. Neil Desai. Neil, are you on?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Neil. Oh, hi, Neil. How are you doing, buddy? I didn't see you
Yeah, good. Nice to see everybody after so long.
there. So you want to walk us through where we are, my friend?
Sure. I think in the memo I sent, I tried to put as much information on there so that we could spend time here with any questions and kind of looking at the timeline. So if you have the memo I sent on, if you'd have that in front of you, I think that'd be better than trying to project.
You're talking about the June 12th?
It's dated June 18th.
18th.
I only have the June 12th. I don't have didn't get the 18th.
It's in the backup.
Yeah, it's after the June 12th one. Go down one more. I have June 12th and then I have the June 18th after that.
The 18th is not in the packet that I got.
Do you have your laptop with you, Dan? I can send.
I'm on a laptop, but if I go, I can't.
Yeah, I understand. You don't want to get off, so yeah, I understand that. I'm going to send it to you.
I guess I'll start
Yes,
while Dan is receiving that over email. I think just a brief bit of review, recap. The latest public draft of the comp plan update is still posted on the website planvom.org. And that was, we called it the first full draft, October 4th, 2019. And that was up for public comment. And after that, the next event was we had a comprehensive update summit on the 24th of October, 2019. That was televised by LMC, and I put a link to the video if anybody was interested in looking back at that. And so it's been, during this, since the end of October, when we had the summit, we compiled all the comments received at the summit from the BOT, village planner, and we put those all together in a tracking sheet. And the purpose of that is to record all the comments and provide a response to all of them. Some of the comments were minor things, and so we noted them, and some of them were minor corrections, good things that people found. and some things are a little bit more substantive we commented on the sheet, and the tracking sheet will be part of the full record of the comp plan, and it's not part of this memo here, but it's gonna the importance of it is just to reflect back on how the draft has changed as a result of the comments, and record specifically how we responded to the comments, if that led to any changes in the draft. And so that's will be part of the record, and we'll keep on working on that, since there'll be another round of review for another draft of the plan in the future. So we will build on that. Another piece of in November, the village manager and the village planner at the time, Greg, requested that we integrate the capital budget into the comprehensive plan update. And typically a comprehensive plan, I think that was a good thing to do. Typically, comprehensive plans are good ways to help inform the capital budget, so we integrated the pieces of the village capital budget into a draft that you still haven't seen yet, but it's something that I produced. We completed it on May 19th, 2020. This is letter E on my memo, and so that second draft of the comp plan update, which you completed in May 19th, which included the comprehensive, the capital budget items that the village manager and planner would asked us to include. And it also includes all the revisions based on the comments people had given us, which I just talked about. And the one other thing that I added, since in March, things kind of changed everywhere. And I asked Greg, I said, we can't, the comp plan, we can't just be silent on this, because there's impacts that the COVID-19 pandemic is having in every community. Some are short-term impacts, but there also could be long-term impacts. And so what this May 19th draft that the planner and village manager also reviewed also includes a discussion of COVID-19 and the pandemic and its impacts. It was my first pass at kind of coming up with something to say about the pandemic, its impact on the village and the responses. And so it was kind of my first pass at it. That was probably done in April or May. And so what I've done is, because that's something I think would be important for you to look at sooner rather than later. So I included those 2 pages in the memo that, in this memo, the June 18th that I'm talking through, the 2 pages of that, it's the introductory section of the plan, which includes the discussion on pandemic, is in there. And it's something we can talk about now or another time. And so the next step, the village manager and the planner gave comments back on the May 19th draft. And so my next step, at least according to my next step, would be to produce a final second draft. And this is a version that will be ready for the second round of public comment. And the last part of the memo then gives you a suggested timeline. The suggested timeline that I sent over email to the village manager is similar to the one I incorporated in the memo. And I know there were some comments about that. And I integrated a few just a few things in the memo, a few kind of tweaks in the memo in red, but largely I left the timetable as it was presented on the 12th over that email, and just indicated, for example, a new village planner apparently starting on the 13th of July, for example. And so I guess a few of the things that, besides anything else you'd like to discuss, any questions, is talking about this timeline, how to best complete this process. It's been going on for a number of years, but we've adapted to it as we've gone along. So that's one thing, the timeline. And the second thing is, if you have anything to talk about regarding the write-up I had done on the pandemic, that's another thing we could talk about now. But those 2 items, the kind of ironing out a timeline, and I could talk through the timeline a bit next. And the second part is the pandemic piece.
So Neil, I haven't been to the website recently. Is the changes that you made in tracking mode or just incorporated?
Right now, the changes are they're in a table format and it indicates the page number, and so the draft itself, I think that's something you had requested in the past. Um, I could do that. I could to make it easier for review the BOT rather than having you look at the table and try to find out which page number, what page has been changed. I can actually mark up um, the in the next draft what has been changed, so you can see very easily um, what's been changed. So right now it doesn't exist as a red line, as the red line version.
I think the red line version is a very helpful tool, not only for the BOT, but for everybody else as they go through this. Well, otherwise, you have a tremendous amount of stuff to read.
So um,
I have a few questions for Neil. Does anybody else on the board have questions? Victor, go ahead, buddy.
I have. Yes. Well, thank you. Great to see you again, Neil.
Yeah.
I mean, this process has been taking longer than expected, but I think we're railing it in now. I'll just cut to the chase here. In addition to the red line version, I would also think BOT should see that red line version before it goes out to public comment.
okay.
I have all deference, and I know your work, but the exchange between you and that happened in May. Let's see what was the product of that in red line version.
Sure.
Once we get a chance to see it, then, and it could be a matter of a week, then I think we will be okay for you to just post it out there. So I think that will maybe delay us one week, but since this is a BOT led action, I think once it goes out to public comment, we have our signature there. So we can be, we have the responsibility. So I think I would suggest to my colleagues that we get to see that version as it stands today before it goes public, and maybe offer a week for us to give back any comments, but I do think we cannot delay that further. So that's step number one. So that would move things just 1 week. And on the tail end, I just think having a public hearing in August is very difficult. It's not gonna, it will upset a lot of people that I know, that I think will know. I think we just not add anything, but just spread it out and have that last public hearing in September, in our second meeting in September. That will also allow us to have that final looked us to by all of us in August before it goes, it's circulated to all the public and the land use boards. Nobody's going to respond in August, but it'll be available for a good month and a half so that people can then come back. So instead of just spreading things out, and I have a red line version of those dates, but I'll let other comments, and I can offer that outline after others comment, or whenever you think it's appropriate. But I don't want to just take too long. Others may have comments, and I'll look for that in the meantime.
Nora or Kelly or Dan?
I agree. We should extend the schedule a little bit, especially since some of the land use boards don't really meet in August. So they wouldn't have the opportunity to meet as a board. And it is a type 1 action, so it's going to be circulated widely. So I think waiting till September, I mean, sticking with the schedule we have now, but waiting till September for the final hearing is probably going to be the most practical.
Along those lines, one of the concerns I have is your last item is that you have the public hearing and adoption at the same date. And I do not believe that that's a prudent approach to life. If the public has something that they raise that should be included, then you can adopt it that night.
Yeah, that's the decision the board will make. Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. but you open the public hearing and you see what you get, right? It's like any time you adopt a law.
Yeah.
Um,
Tom, I'll just throw in, because I was in touch with the flood committee and the traffic committee today, and Shannon Purdy did mention that the Vision Zero committee should weigh in. We're not yet having the ad hoc committees meet in July, so I think this delay is good to the
Yeah.
extent we can build in some time for the ad hoc committees to discuss this, in Zoom, or I don't know how we're going to do that, work it out with Jerry and village staff, but maybe only the ad hoc committees who want to meet to discuss the public plan, we can arrange something, but somehow we need to have an opportunity for them to weigh in.
I agree with what you're all saying about delaying it. I would actually like to see it happen when we're meeting in Village Hall. I don't know if maybe in September or October, we can go back to having regular meetings in Village Hall. I don't know, maybe that's pie in the sky, but
I also think that I was comparing the draft that I have, which was September, to the October draft that's up. And I think that the September draft doesn't have information about Vision Zero, but there have been a few things that were added. There's a few pages that have been added, maybe about 15 pages that are a little bit different, some more illustrations, but there are a couple of things that got added. And I think that's part of it. So we should make sure that the committees have the most recent draft, the October one, not the September one.
no, we should give them the one that we approve after it's redlined, right?
That's what I was about to say, that, Mayor.
Yeah.
Um,
We should wait until the Board of Trustees has the red line one approved and then circulate it before so that they can have the most up-to-date one. Neil, my questions or my concerns were about the pandemic.
yes.
I know a lot of people in this community and a lot of people I know are working remotely.
Mhm.
Is there any, in the planning world, is there any data or speculation about how extensively that's going to continue post-COVID? Because I think it's a cost benefit for businesses.
Without a doubt. Right now, I'm trying to read as much as I can about what's happening. As far as the remote work, I think it's still going to be. I know that people are enjoying, the majority of people, whether both personally and as well as just reading the materials out there, are really enjoying working from home, generally speaking, and are planning on negotiating with their employers to work out some sort of joint arrangement where they could do both remote work and commute 2 days a week, 3 days a week. I think right now offices are still adjusting. Right now I think that's something to be watched, because the offices are now opening up right now, even in New York City. The realtors are really trying to do as much, at least the big realtors are trying to do as much as possible to create safe environments in the office building so people feel safe going to the to work. But in reality, I think we're still a little early to be able to say how it's going to impact
Because I have heard anecdotal from commercial real estate buildings in New York City where tenants are trying to now renegotiate to have less space.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Less space, and also in some cases, they within their spaces, they have to reduce the amount of people in order to create more space between people. And so that's another thing. They're rearranging workspaces for that. My workplace, which I haven't gone to the office yet, but we're welcome to go, but we haven't been called back into our building yet. Probably not until July. But I think we're going to see in the next several months how the transition goes and whether employers are really going to offer employees concessions in terms of commuting arrangements versus working from home. It's worked generally very well across the board for public meetings, for corporate purposes. Working from home, people have been effective, and so let's see how it goes. But that's an important thing planning wise. That's a very important question planning wise.
And as part of a corollary to that, there's been at least I've heard from, anecdotally from real estate people, that there's also been a renewed migration from New York City. I mean, it's hard to keep a house on the market these days.
Yes.
With the people moving up from the city because they don't want to deal with the subway and they want to work from home. And this whole COVID and some of the reactions to COVID have really spooked a lot of people.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's one of the things I did write about in that little 2-page piece on the pandemic that I included is just that. New Yorkers were already fed up. A lot of New Yorkers were already fed up before the pandemic, and the pandemic has really kind of been the last straw. And I've seen a number of articles where realtors are, especially like I think just the other day in the New York Times, they're talking about the Catskills. Realtors phones are ringing off the hook. And I think whereas people enjoy the urban environments, they're just craving more space that smaller towns than Mamaronecks offer, even beyond the Mamaronecks. So that's something I wrote about, a trend to kind of watch. I do anticipate that you already have a lot of Brooklynites moving to Mamaroneck and other folks in the city, and I wonder how if that trend is going to speed up, and that has
Yeah. There was an interesting article in the Times about what neighborhoods emptied out in end of March, beginning of April, and they used cell phone pings to figure out where everybody had gone. And
right.
The more affluent communities where people had, a summer home where they could go to mom and dad's house, those communities, lost 25% of their population.
Yeah, my dad just told me that one of our family friends, they actually rented a house. I don't know if it's the town or the village, but they're like, oh yeah, they rented a house in Mamaroneck. So they're in Mamaroneck now. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Way upstate in America.
Yeah.
Anybody else on the board have any more questions for Neil or comments?
Thank you for plugging along.
What you hear is that we want to move this, the end game into the fall.
I have a proposal, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we have to, and if I may, I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Now I do.
Okay. What I did is I just took Neil's proposal, and I've been working on it. And I couldn't circulate this before because it's been a work as I've moved after lunch. I started doing this lunch break and actually doing it right now. So what I'm doing here is working out of his timeline and inserted some of the things that we've discussed today. Essentially, here we are, and we've discussed Neil to provide the red line version. If we can give him if we can look at that, and we have a work session next week, then could that be finalized so that it be circulated for the boards, commission, and the public. So we essentially he had the Wednesday to prepare it, and it'll be going out to the website on the Thursday. Actually, by then we will have a new village planner, and then the village comments are 3 weeks as proposed. So we will have the first round of comments by July 23rd. Then we meet the 27th. At that point, we can discuss where we stand. We can start seeker. And that's when the final document is released. That then gives everybody circulates kind of a last round for everybody to comment and to get it back to us, to get us back comments sometime in September, so that that allows us to have one more meeting before that final adoption is really a final adoption, but it has incorporated opportunities so that it's a more doable final option. And I know this was I just finished this. So I suggest I circulate this to all of you, to Neil, of course, to our village manager. He may want to circulate, and we can finalize it by next week, so that we can move on to other business that we have a long meeting today.
The only caveat I would have is where you have September 29th, right? Just put BOT public hearing. Don't put for adoption, because it looks like it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to adopt it there. You know what I mean?
Okay, the first draft is done here.
I know.
One thing, actually, one suggestion, Victor, because I won't be able to provide it today. I will probably the red line version because there's a few comments in the schedule in the memo. Basically, I'll need until about Thursday of this week to be able to. There's some edits I need to incorporate, which I spoke with the village manager about last week because he reviewed it, and then I also need to do the red line so you can see it. So I need a little bit more time to just prepare that. It's not ready right now, so I'll probably need until about Thursday. I can send that on Thursday.
I put by Friday morning. How's that?
Sure, that'll work.
But that only, if we're meeting on Monday, that doesn't give a lot of time. My suggestion is put it, build in at least 1 week, preferably 2 weeks for the board to go through it.
So why don't we, the board go through it at our first July meeting?
I think that's the 13th, Mayor.
Yeah. What about that? I don't, listen, I'd rather
Okay.
give everybody time and not feel rushed and do it right and have the village planner there. It's a nice way to start. Hey, how you doing? Here's the new comprehensive plan.
That's the day he starts.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd rather give us time and, if we go into October, we go into October.
I'm not leaving town, so I'll be around.
My hope.
Not even coming to Mamaroneck.
You know what I
I
really,
might be able to come in October if things open up.
That'd be nice.
because this is a big ticket item, and I'd rather not. If we have to do it on Zoom, we do it on Zoom, but I'd rather do it in the courtroom. But I might just be having a fantasy here that we'll be back in the courtroom by then.
And I just want to say September 29th is a Tuesday, so I think the date should be September 28th.
No, that was changed because there's a Jewish holiday right there.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Then our,
It'll be Tuesday the 29th, right?
then our village calendar, okay, all right.
Should it be Tuesday the 29th? Is that what you're saying, Nora?
It's, okay, so it says that the village calendar says we have it Monday, the 28th, but apparently it got postponed to the 29th and the calendar doesn't reflect it.
Okay, so it should say Tuesday the 29th.
I believe so. Well, then, yeah.
Let's change that, Victor.
Yes, I'll do that. And essentially everything moves
Week back.
more weeks, but more or less trying to finish by the first week by the first meeting in October.
Yeah, which would
All right.
be the 12th.
All right, I'll just do those changes, circulate them to all of you, and we need to discuss further. We'll finalize on next Monday.
Thanks, Victor.
Right.
Really good
I
idea.
just want to throw this out there, although we had discussed only having one meeting in July and one meeting in August, but our calendar says we have two. And if that's going to be better for the comprehensive plan, maybe we should stick with it, but we're going to have to do a different resolution because in December, we only scheduled one per month, but we actually put two on the calendar.
Well, I thought we scheduled 2. You sure, Nora?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we only scheduled one. I meant to double check and I didn't. I will double check.
Yeah, please, because I remember talking about having 2, because we always schedule 1 and then we have 2 anyway.
Well, last summer we certainly did.
Yeah. As I joked before, I'd like to get paid by the meeting. We scheduled, I was just informed that we scheduled 2.
Okay.
By Sally. All right, Neil, anything else you want to leave us with?
No, I'm nice to see you all again, and I'm glad you'll get a chance to see the draft sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Neil. Stay well.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Neil.
See you soon. Okay. The next up on the agenda, I'm just going to go to 1C because I see Captain Barney is here, and her illustrious father, ex-Chief John Barney, and they are here to talk about a replacement for engine 40. Is that correct? You can unmute yourself there, Jessica.
Yes, that's correct.
Hey, Jessica, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
Thank you for coming this evening.
We have Vinny out here. So
Yeah, Chief Costa is also, I believe, in the attendee section of this as well.
We could promote him to a participant.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Please do.
Primrose, and who else we have there?
Well, Costa's not here, just Pete Primrose.
We have Pete.
I'm here. I
Chief
just don't have a
Costa's here,
camera.
Just on a camera.
Here he is.
Oh, there he is.
He's coming up on our screen now.
Okay.
he does not have a camera.
Right. he does not.
Mike.
All right, so we wanted to present our research that we have been doing for about 2.5 years on a replacement apparatus for our current engine 40, which is used for initial fire line attack. I'm going to share the presentation with you right now. I believe you have a copy of it. There have been some minor adjustments that were made, but you'll see that in this presentation.
Okay, Jessica, it's all yours. We'll share your screen.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now. I just have to move this, sorry.
Take your time.
Okay, so we started researching in March of 2017 for possible vendors to use for a replacement apparatus as we're being guided by NFPA 1901 and 1911, which are the guidelines for apparatus maintenance, building apparatus specifications, maintenance, and the retiring and replacing of apparatus. We had an extensive crew of, as you can see, ex-chiefs, ex-captains of the company, many of whom are current drivers of the current engine 40, as well as our current captain, Eugene Doherty, and current Lieutenant Patrick Doherty. We were working extensively on the specifications that we are using right now with Hudson Valley Fire Equipment, who are the local vendors for Seagrave apparatus, which is out of Wisconsin. And we decided on this this manufacturer, Seagrave, after visiting a couple of conventions and shows in Long Island, as well as Pennsylvania, speaking to various vendors. And we really liked what Seagrave had to offer us in the Village of Mamaroneck and the community. So we'd like to go through that a little bit with you right now. Okay, so we first assessed our need for a replacement. Currently, there are guidelines that show us what is an exceeding general lifespan of an initial attack fire apparatus. I referred to them previously. That's National Fire Protection Agency, NFPA 1901 and 1911. They guide fire departments in the standards for purchasing, maintenance, retirement, and disposal of apparatus, and recommends apparatus older than 20 years be removed from frontline service or initial service. Currently, engine 40 is 25 years old, so we're already 5 years past that general lifespan that's recommended. We have over 6,888.8 engine hours, which equals about 172,000 engine miles. That's calculated with 1 engine hour equals 25 miles. We have over 296.1 pump hours on this apparatus, as well as 41,422 plus road miles. We respond to approximately 500 alarms per year. And we're seeking replacement in accordance to the Village of Mamaroneck apparatus near-term planning timeline, which was established collaboratively between current, at the time, Chief Dean DeLitta and the village board at the time, as well as village manager Richard Slingerland. This is the timeline that I just referred to. As you can see, engine 40 has been marked in red. Today we're at 2020. We should have been looking, according to these guidelines, between 2015 and 2020 for a replacement.
this has been,
The engine 42 1989 Seagrave was retired and replaced in 2016. And we currently use engine 39, which is a 1985 Seagrave, as a reserve apparatus whenever one of our rigs in the fleet are going through maintenance or has issues. We use engine 39 in its place until that rig has been properly maintained. Current engine 40 is a 1996 R.D. Murray manufactured fire attack pumper. It has a Spartan Gladiator 10-person full tilt cab, an Allison World transmission 450 horsepower, a waterless two-stage pump, 1,500 gallons per minute, a 750-gallon T-shaped water tank, onboard generator, and onboard scene lighting, both portable and fixed, and it has an aluminum cab. It's designed for initial fire attack and water supply, and it's being looked at as a possible replacement for the reserve rig of our fleet, the 1985 Seagrave.
Say that last part about the 1985 Seagrave.
It's being looked at as if we move forward and get a replacement engine 40 for it to replace the reserve rig, which is a 1985 Seagrave. So that would be our spare apparatus that would support us when one of our fleet is in the shop.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. What we're looking at is a 2021 FWD Seagrave, 7-person Marauder 2 full tilt cab, a Cummins X12 500 horsepower engine, waterless two-stage pump with 1,500 gallons per minute, a 750-gallon L-shaped water tank. This is the major difference between the two rigs, as the L-shaped water tank allows for the hose bed to be lower and allows for manpower to be able to more safely and efficiently take the line off the rear of the engine for initial fire attack. We also want an onboard generator and onboard sea lighting, just as the current engine 40. The highlight of the Seagrave apparatus is that it has a stainless steel cabin body. This was the predominant reason why we were looking at this vendor. It's seen as the strongest and safest in the industry, which is our #1 goal in looking for a replacement for engine 40. It would also be designed for initial fire attack and water supply.
Can I ask you a question there, Jessica?
Mm-hmm.
What about flooding situations? I know for fire, this is probably the top notch, but did this pumps, just and the capabilities, would they be helpful in a flooding scenario, or not really?
history has proven here that the fire department generally does not get involved in pumping out anything in flood situations. Due to the amount of debris that you usually find in flood waters. It winds up costing you more damage for your pumps than it's really worth. So the history has been that way probably since the mid-60s.
Thank you, Chief. That's great to know. Thank you.
So these slides here are just showing some examples of the front bumper design that would be included in the specifications that we've gone through with Seagrave, and an example of the exact compartment space. The compartment space in this example it's superior to the current engine 40. It has bigger compartments for us to be able to store more equipment so that we can perform more of our tasks more efficiently.
It's much easier to organize things also.
We also have an example of a similar pump panel layout that our pump operator would use to make sure that the proper flow of water is used at various types of fire scenes, as well as an example of the hose bed, which is lower in height to assist our manpower in getting the hose off in a timely fashion, and as well as to repack it after a fire scene, which at that time people are very spent and exhausted, so it would allow them to do that with less force and effort. Here you have a picture of a preliminary mechanical drawing of the proposed engine 40 from Seagrave. The dimensions are slightly different, but this is the general idea of the design that we were looking at.
Yeah, you'll note we've cut back on the crew cab down to 5 seats to enable us to have more room to fully gear up when we get to the scene. There's no more really it's frowned on to come in your civilian clothes and go into the fire scene without proper gear. So they try to gear up. We've allowed more room to make it easier, especially with the COVID now. We sometimes have to use some PPE on top of our firefighting gear as well. The hose bed, as we mentioned, is probably going to be a foot lower than what it is now, actually at least a foot lower. Again, it's a safety factor for us. Packing the hose is done from up on the top as well. So you're not up as high, number one, and it's easier to pack. Basically, the pump will be essentially the same as we have now. So the familiarization for the drivers is going to be an easy changeover. And the compartments are a little larger, makes it easier to display our equipment and have it mounted much more efficiently than it is now.
And also these dimensions have been worked so that the apparatus would be able to get to all parts of the community and be able to go under bridges and anything that may be seen as an obstacle for some vehicles of this size. Dimensions fit properly.
Is it the same length and width as the old engine?
I think it's essentially 4 inches longer than the current one. That was due to partially due to the size of the hose bed that we got.
Gotcha.
It affects the back end. The turning radius will be essentially the same.
Gotcha. Okay, Jessica, keep going.
Okay, so this is basic auxiliary equipment that would be necessary for the full operation of the new engine 40. As we are looking to have the old engine 40 as the reserve rig to replace engine 39, that equipment will be going with that rig. So we would need some equipment to assist us in fully complying with NFPA and the responsibilities of our job. We're looking at a blowhard electric battery operated fan or with a smoke injector, a thermal imaging camera, a combustible gas detector unit, SCBA unit bottles for our PPE and our SCBA breathing apparatus, 2 fire hooks, iron sets, 2 fire hooks with pig head axes, 1 aluminum pipe pole 6 feet, 1 8-foot aluminum pipe pole, which is usually used for overhaul and looking for extension at fire scenes, large diameter hose wrench kits, spanner wrench kits, and ball gate valves for when we're hooking the hydrants to gain water supply. This is just the basic equipment that we would be looking for to equip the new engine 40.
Can I ask a question about this, Jessica?
Sure.
You can't repurpose this equipment from the old truck?
So engine 39 is very limitedly equipped. Whenever it goes into service for one of our other apparatus, we often have to transfer from that company, from their rig, the equipment that will be needed to fulfill responsibilities onto engine 39. So that would have to be the case for whichever reserve rig we use going forward.
Engine 39 has probably the oldest scout packs in the department on there, some of which should be coming out of service soon because of their age. Through the years, equipment has been broken and damaged from engine 39 as it goes from house to house, and it just hasn't been completely replaced. So with engine 40 sliding over to the old engine 40 sliding over into 39 spot, it should be fully equipped with what's on there now.
So does this new engine does the new engine become engine 41?
No, it becomes engine 40.
Becomes engine 40, and the old 39 number will just be transferred to the current engine 40.
Okay, so when you say engine 39, that's like from time immemorial, that's the backup engine?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
Currently the 85 Seagrave.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Sure. We also would need hose to equip the apparatus for fire service. Here just outlines what we would need for each size diameter hose. We use various diameters for different types of tasks within the fire service. And this was state bid pricing through AAA Emergency Supply Company, which is a vendor that the fire department uses frequently. And so this is what Engine 40 essentially would need.
The different lengths, I can explain if anyone has a question. The different lengths are used for different purposes. They're what we call a trash line in the front, located in the front of the apparatus. That's the quickest water on a fire scene that a driver can give them. It's right on the front bumper, and it's usually 2 to 3 lengths of hose. Each of the lengths are generally 50 feet. When you get to the cross lays in the middle of the apparatus, which I can show you on the picture, they're essentially 200 feet each, which is 4 lengths each. They're color coded to match the pump panel handles and controls. The larger diameter hose, the 2.5 and 3 inches, all comes off the back of the apparatus for large diameter assault on a fire scene. And the 5-inch that you see listed above here is for supply, both from the hydrant and from one apparatus to a ladder or to another apparatus as a supply line.
So let me just try to figure this out. The 5-inch gets hooked up to the fire hydrant. The fire hydrant gets hooked up to the engine, and then you're fighting the fire with 2-inch or 3-inch hose. Is that right?
That's correct. The 5-inch comes from the hydrant to the fire apparatus,
Right.
or a large supply, like if the pumper was feeding the ladder pipe, they would give it a 5-inch line as a supply line. The other sizes, the 1.75 and 2-inch and 2.5 and 3-inch, are for actual fire assault.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then final slide is just the projected cost at this time of a replacement apparatus and the project timeline. I have revised the timeline due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as we weren't able to originally meet in March as we had anticipated. So the timeline has been changed. Like I said, in May of 2017, the apparatus committee convened and assessed the need for replacement. In January, we completed primary research, meeting with different vendors. We had visitations to shows to look at various equipments in real time, and consultations with Hudson Valley Fire to discuss the possibility of a Seagrave. We're here now with the work session and presentation to the board. And the other parts of the timeline are in it. If we do decide to move forward in this process, is what could be anticipated as the rest of the timeline.
Manufacturing from Seagrave, from the day we sign a contract, would be within 9 months. Would be the manufacturing, that would be the delivery time.
Okay, so it's kind of like custom made, right?
That's exactly correct. There are some basics that Seagrave uses on every piece of equipment, but the size of the engine, so on and so forth, the chassis, hose bed, things like that, all are custom to our request.
Well, this is a very informative presentation, and Captain Barney, thank you very much for doing.
You're welcome. Thank you.
There are 2 of the other chiefs on the line. I wonder if they would like to comment. Chief Costa and Chief Primrose, do you guys want to jump in, or?
Vinny, why don't you go ahead? Okay, hello all. Can you hear me or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So one of the reasons we're looking towards the Seagrave is, as you can see, the history with the Seagrave as our spare apparatus / backup apparatus is an 85, and we also have a 2001 Seagrave, which is engine 38. They've done well for us, and with all the advancements in protection for firefighters, what Jessica mentioned was the stainless cab and the rear part of the apparatus. There's a lot of protection for us, and as you know, if you've seen on the news, apparatus being hit from behind from other vehicles, tractor trailers, whatever have you, and we're just looking for more protection and a better apparatus to serve us.
And just so the folks at home know, Chief Costa, the Village of Mamaroneck Fire Department responds to a lot of emergencies on Interstate 95 where, you know, you're taking your life into your hands sometimes.
Absolutely. It's crazy up there, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The one other point on the stainless steel body is with the amount of salt that's used locally now on snow and ice, it's very resistant to the salt. So there's less damage to the engine body to begin with.
And I just would like to mention that, you know, the history of the fire department, we try to keep our apparatus as long as we can, and we maintain them well and take care of them. But as you know, as they get older, they start to break down, and there are some issues with the current engine 40, which can be repaired, and it's nothing that's really expensive, but you know, it's going to get worse as the years go on if it's used as a initial attack, a frontline apparatus. And with the advancements in protections and everything that we have in our 96 Murray is way more advanced than the 85 Seagrave. So we're kind of upgrading our fleet, and, you know, all of our fleet, you know, our backup and our frontline apparatus.
So Chief Costa, when engine 40 becomes engine 39, the current engine 39 can be sold or auctioned, is that right?
That's correct. If the fire department council deems that that's what we're going to do, then yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Chief Costa, you mentioned repairs. Do you have information of what the repairs cost over the last couple of years on this engine?
I don't have that.
The other engines?
No, I do not. I don't have that.
I may be able to add a little something to that. The budget for vehicle repairs keeps going up until this year, when, because of the shortfall, we had to cut back. But the costs keep going up, and the reality is that the older an apparatus is, the harder it is to find parts, to the point that I've actually seen cases quite a long time ago now, but it still can happen, where actual custom work ends up having to be done to replace a part on something that's broken on an older rig. So the repair costs as the rig gets older, they go up exponentially. I don't have any actual numbers for you, Trustee Natchez. I would have to go back through the KVS system even before I was chief in order to provide more than the past year.
I think for the future, it might be good to do that for all the engines, so that information can be tracked.
Yes, that's good information. But also remember that this apparatus is ending its life in a initial response first line attack apparatus. So irregardless of the maintenance factor, the apparatus does need to be replaced in order to proficiently serve the community.
Who does the maintenance on the vehicles?
Excelsior Garage does most of our maintenance.
Okay, right here in the village.
Yes, sir.
Any other trustees have questions?
Yep, I've got a couple. What do we think the auxiliary equipment is going to cost?
The auxiliary equipment, so Chief Costa may be able to give a ballpark figure on that. We tried to get that figure for you, but due to the pandemic, our suppliers were not able to provide us with that information at this time. Chief
Yes,
Costa?
she's correct, because we had a list that we gave to our vendor, and they were not able to fulfill it because the pandemic with the staff that they had. And I can get that info eventually, but we
do
don't
you know
have
just
that right
ballpark whether it's, you know, $100,000 or, you know,
now. No,
$10,000? I have no idea. So I'm just
at an educated guess, I guess maybe under 20.
okay.
Just that's for that's not including the hose. That's just the other equipment
That's
you're
right.
talking about,
That's
correct?
right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You had a number for the hose. You had a 24 grand for the
I
hose.
saw that. Yep.
Right.
Nora, Victor?
Yeah, I'm
No,
sorry. I had one more question, which is, so I see that the NFPA recommends replacement after a certain number of years. Does the NFPA also have recommendations for when things should be replaced in terms of the engine hours, the pump hours, and the mileage? Because we had numbers for those as well.
NFPA basically states that the apparatus, after it meets a certain year of service,
Yeah.
it needs to be replaced or put into reserve status. As a frontline apparatus, there's a limit to it. As a reserve, there's not a limit as long as you can keep up with the safety features needed on the spare apparatus, because that apparatus is not going to be in the front line every day. So that apparatus is not as used as the frontline apparatus.
And is that regardless of whether it's been used very much or not? Just age alone means it should be moved out of frontline?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Sorry, Ben.
That's okay.
So it comes down to, quite frequently, availability of replacement parts. And
okay.
Because as rigs get older, it becomes much more difficult to find replacements. You couldn't find easily find an alternator for a 15-year-old car. You'd have to search for it.
And do we have any idea if we auction that old engine 39, how much that could get us?
Unfortunately, I can't say what you would get, but you're not going to get that much for it, to be honest with you. I believe when we replaced engine 40 and 96, ex-Chief Barney can elaborate on this, but I don't think we got maybe more than $7,000 at that time for that apparatus.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but you know, that apparatus is very old, and in order to bring it up to today's standards, it's almost impossible, but it would cost a fortune.
I think another item which is important is the integrity of the fleet and our ability to maintain it is an important component of our ISO rating. And when you don't have, right now, we have an ISO rating of 3, which is, you know, phenomenal for an all-volunteer company. You'd be very hard-pressed to find a lot of change, even with professional departments. So the investment that, you know, the municipality makes in its fire apparatus saves money for the homeowners and their fire insurance.
Gotcha.
The ISO, the age of the apparatus is one part of the equation in the rating that the village gets from the ISO, which affects everyone's fire apparatus, fire insurance.
Okay. Nora?
No, I thank you for the thorough presentation, thorough and professional presentation. And all your work.
Yeah.
If there's no other,
Very helpful.
if there's no other questions, I would just like to thank the board at this time for putting up with us and allowing us to come before you with this presentation. We're available to answer any questions at any time.
I think we need to thank you.
You know, ex-Chief Barney, you came up to me at the raffle night and you wanted to present this, and then COVID hit us, and we just never got to it, and I apologize for that. But you especially ex-Captain Barney, did an excellent job preparing this. Answered a lot of questions, and I think we all learned something here. And we'll be giving this the due consideration it deserves, and hopefully providing you what you need in the future. Thank you all for everything you do, day in and day out. It's really appreciated. I look at all the work that must have went into how you picked out this apparatus. And I really appreciate that we have volunteers who not only will show up at fires, but actually put in hundreds of hours into the administration of the fire department. And it says a lot for the whole crew. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All righty.
Good night now, and thank you.
Take care, fire department.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Be safe.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. I think we were going to go at 6 o'clock into an executive session. We have
I think,
the labor attorney waiting for us on the other end. Hope. And it, you know, what do we want to handle in this executive session? Because we're going to have a meeting next Monday. We could have an executive session there too, and we have more on the agenda to handle tonight. So, you know, we definitely have to have the personnel matter. And then there was another matter the village attorney sent us today. Let me just look it up. It's Gonzalez Rivera versus the village of Mamaroneck. And that is a litigation that needs to be timely addressed. So could we go in on the employment matter and on the Gonzalez Rivera and take some of the other weighty matters and hold them over till next Monday? Would that be fine with everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there are a couple of employment matters that we've been notified about. So only one needs a labor attorney.
Okay. But what I'm asking for is to hold the other ones off until next Monday night. And doing the one with the labor attorney tonight and Gonzalez tonight.
well, why don't, I mean, we're adding the Gonzalez matter, and why don't we see if we can see how far we can get? And if we don't enter executive session to discuss those things and we have time, we won't be able to do it. So maybe we should just put it in as part of our motion and see if we can get to it.
Okay. All right.
That makes sense. Let's just get in there though, because the lawyers are billing.
I think, right.
All right. Who wants to make a motion?
I'll make the motion for the first three. And then can somebody figure out from Bob's memo for the fourth item?
The fourth item, the Gonzalez item, is just litigation.
Right. That's
Well, so
litigation.
I think Victor had made a request. So the first item is to go into executive session on a land use matter pursuant to 101 F of the New York State Public Officers Law as it relates to the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or persons or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And then the second one is land use attorney. It is anticipated that a motion will be offered into executive session pursuant to 105 F of the New York State Public Officers Law as it relates to the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment of employment, promotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And then C, Hampshire Recreation LLC versus Village of Mamaroneck, the Village of Mamaroneck Planning Board, motion to enter executive session pursuant to 105(1)D as it relates to proposed, pending, or current litigation. And then the last matter is
The same, Gonzalez Rivera, same section.
so
Same
Same
section,
section, just add-
105(1)D relating to pending current litigation.
we have to name the litigation.
Gonzalez Rivera versus Village of Mamaroneck.
Thank you. Okay, so moved.
But one minute. I think you haven't mentioned the labor issue that actually the attorneys were. Are we not? Isn't there?
Oh,
Yeah,
So it would be another matter under 101, 1F, correct?
Right, having to do with a village employee.
105, 1F, right?
5, yes, right. This is wrong.
Okay. Let's add that.
It's 5 matters, yes.
Okay,
Nora, you making that motion?
so moved for all 5.
Second,
Second,
Call roll.
Trustees Winstrup,
yes.
Natchez,
yes.
Lucas,
Yes,
the four,
Yes,
Member.
Aye. See you in executive session.
okay.
Get my tea. Change beverage for the second meeting.
Mayor, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to keep myself. I'm here for demapping, so I'll be on for demapping. But I just want to let you know that I'm here, but I'm going to keep my video off until demapping comes up. So just an FYI.
It's my party, I'll cry if I want to.
Tom, do you have a copy of the proclamation for Louise, or do you need me to share my screen?
No, you know what? She's not gonna be here.
Okay,
We're gonna wait on it. She had to go to her grandchild.
okay,
Thank you, though.
you got it.
And you said of earmuffs? Headsets?
Yeah, the, what?
You said of headsets?
Yeah, I got some earbuds. The other ones I was using need to recharge again. These are not the fake earbuds I bought off Wish. These are real earbuds, which I think I got through Amazon.
Apple.
You know it's real if you got it from Amazon, right?
Well, I thought everything on the internet was true.
Everything, absolutely.
What I did do though is now that I paid off my phone through Verizon, I switched to Altice and I'm going to pay $20 a month for my cell account.
With internet?
Cablevision Altice has that thing now.
Oh,
Yeah, so I decided rather than paying $90 a month for my Verizon plan, I'd rather pay $20 a month through Altice.
all right. Fair enough. How's the service?
Well, it's fine. It's basically, as long as you bring your phone with you, it'll connect to any network. So Basically, it's a Verizon phone picking up a Verizon signal, but just says Altice on it now. Service is fine.
You have to bring your phone with you, right, Dan?
Yeah, or you have to bring an unlocked phone with you.
You got that, right?
I don't know. Your humor is just going over my head, Augie.
Well, you said you have to bring your cell phone with you. How else would you make a phone call if you didn't bring your cell phone? That's what I want to know.
I'm going to start communicating with carrier pigeons. Maybe we'll get a really long string so I can call you from Mount Pleasant Avenue.
You could just run a cable,
That's what.
a clothesline. Right?
Remember what are those things? Nextels, that was all the rage?
Yeah, it was, back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Contractors loved them because they could use that direct connect and not have to actually dial anyone.
Yeah.
I think all the municipalities had it. That's what I first started out with.
When I first started in the elevators, you got a beeper, and the beeper didn't even display a number. It just beeped, and you had to call the office.
Yeah.
George. Okay, is everybody?
Those were the days.
Who are we missing?
Victor's video and audio are not on.
But he's here. Okay.
Well, I don't know. Is he here?
I'm here.
Okay.
Sposito here?
Your video
Here,
is
yes.
on. There you go.
No.
Oh.
Wait for Bob Sposino.
No, I'm here.
You here?
Yep.
You're not on TV.
We're just hiding from it.
Okay, all right.
Please.
Enjoy what you had. Okay. We are coming out of an executive session. We closed the executive session. We're actually still in a work session right now. And I just need to report that in the executive session, we voted to settle a case, Gonzalez Rivera versus the Village of Mamaroneck. We settled it for $18,500. It was a 4-to-1 decision. Now I need a motion to end the work session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of ending the work session?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, and here we are. And it is the 7:30 Board of Trustees regular session in Mamaroneck. And welcome everybody. If you're watching at home and you're going to be speaking, please turn off your phone or whatever you have. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Aye.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I need a motion to open this meeting.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Welcome to the Board of Trustees meeting. We have actually two presentations on the agenda. The first one, we are going to postpone the presentation to Louise Dunaway. Louise is a long time.
Oh, hold on. Can I say one thing?
Yes.
George just texted me that he's on mute. Can we unmute George?
Yeah, we will. The presentation to Louise Dunaway. Ms. Dunaway is a longtime beloved village employee. If you ever went to court, she made the experience, which can be a daunting experience, much more manageable and human and humane. And we will be presenting to her at a later date, hopefully during a time when we can use village courtroom again. And we'll give us the feedback.
Mr. Latner.
And tonight we have a special guest, a longtime friend of the Village of Mamaroneck, a man who has represented the Village of Mamaroneck in one capacity or another since the 90s. We have our friend, County Executive George Latimer, who is going to give us an update on the COVID situation in Westchester County. Welcome, County Executive Latimer.
Tom, happy to be with you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right, well, I appreciate a few minutes just to give you a quick update on where we are. When I last visited, I guess that was about 3 or 4 months ago, and we didn't know exactly where we were going to end up. So here we are, on the downside of it. Are you still picking me up okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So as of today, we have countywide 557 active cases of COVID. And that number is down from a week ago of 775 cases, 2 weeks ago, 951. And at one point, we were at 10,000 cases. There's been a steady decline throughout the course of the last 2 months, since about the end of March, beginning of April. And from a Mamaroneck Village standpoint, right now, with a total of 429 people that have tested positive in the village, you have 14 of them that are still considered active cases. This compares to where you were 2 weeks ago. We had 24 active cases in the village. And even though you've had 400 some odd people test positive, the vast majority of them have worked through the 2-week incubation period. And so they're out of harm's way. Countywide, we're under 90 people who are hospitalized for COVID. And at one point, we had 1,200 people hospitalized for COVID. And while the number of people that have died is a significant number, over 1,400, in the last few nights, there's been 1 or no fatalities. And we've had nights going back to the peak where we lost, 35, 45 people in a night. So we're clearly heading in the right direction. And that is all across the county of Mamaroneck Village and in the other larger and smaller communities. With that said, tomorrow we enter phase 3 as the governor has laid it out. I'm sure everybody's followed this. We had phase 1 a few weeks ago, and then phase 2, which just ended today. What phase 3 means tomorrow for the business community is that in addition to outdoor dining, there will be limited indoor dining for those who are businesses, the restaurant businesses, and that of course starts energizing the community a lot more. We're dealing right now with a number of different restrictions that go with almost every business that opens: 50% capacity, hand sanitizing, masks, social distancing. So we're not back to the old normal as we knew it in February, but at least it's a significant step forward. Also, a series of personal care entities are going to open tomorrow. Things like tattoo parlors, waxing, tanning, massage therapy, things of that nature. And we're also going to see a jump in the size of acceptable meeting groups from 10 to 25. And if it's socially distanced in the right context, then that probably opens up a few more of the activities and so forth. What you're doing right now, having a Zoom meeting as a legal meeting of the board, has been approved by the governor's executive order through July 6th, another 2 weeks. And we're pushing for the governor to extend that through the end of July, so that meetings that aren't going to be in person can still be conducted, and official business of local governments can still be conducted. We use this way of the county legislature in the same way that you do, and we're looking for the government to advance it as much as possible. Basically, we're in a better place today than we were. We're not out of the woods. There's still obviously no vaccine, no antiviral that's going to stop the disease in its tracks. We don't really know if we're going to see a second wave. We have to be prepared for it. So we're testing. We've tested a tremendous number. 239,000 people in Westchester County have been tested. That's out of 1 million people population. And there's hardly any jurisdiction that can point to that kind of a percentage of testing. And when you test, what you're supposed to do, since you don't have all of the, the viral and the vaccine, you have to test, identify positive, isolate, and contact trace so that people don't spread the disease. That's pretty much how we played it for the last couple of months to some degree of success. With that, I'll just touch on a couple of other county issues. If you have any questions for me, fine, and then I'll be out of your way so you can do the rest of your business. We announced today that we have impaneled a police reform and reinvention task force, which parallels what the governor has required of all governments in New York State. That task force is made up of a lot of prominent people around the county. We have Mayo Bartlett and Leroy Frazier, both African-American lawyers, are chairing it. And with that, we're going to devise a plan that's in keeping with what the governor is involved in. The village and the town and other villages and cities all have to do a plan similarly. And at some point in time, working through your village administrator, and perhaps your police chief will be happy to share what we're trying to do on our plan. Maybe of some help to you as you try to prepare your plan so that we work in harmony as much as possible. The census numbers are continuing to move along. We benefited from the fact that this pandemic stretched the due date of the census to October 31st. The original due date was July 31st, and they haven't started going door to door yet to identify, people that haven't responded. Mamaroneck Village at this point has 66.3% of all households have responded to the census. That's 2/3, almost exactly 2/3. At the end of the 2010 census, Mamaroneck Village had 70.4% of the household. You're about 4% behind 10 years ago, with still between now and the end of October ahead of us to be able to hit those numbers. So I'd say you're in pretty good shape, but the emphasis, it's harder in the last third of the population because you reach the harder to count pieces of the groups, and that all is there. And then the final point I was just going to mention in this quick update is that I'm not sure where the village's finances are. Most of our local governments, the county, the state, are at a very difficult set right now. We lost a lot of money on sales tax, which we had hoped that was going to give us a strong future. And right now, we're going to have to figure out how to compensate for that gap. Obviously, we're going to do a number of things on our level. If at some point in time, Jerry or Augie want to chat with us so we know how we're closing our gap, whether that's germane to what you face. You've just done a budget, so in a sense, you saw the problem straight in front of you. We did a budget before the pandemic hit us, and so now we're having to deal with a budget that was not built knowing what the downside was. But if there is some benefit of exchanging that information, we're going to try to do it without laying people off if we can. But that'll involve at the end of the day some federal assistance, and we'll see whether that comes or not. But with that, that's kind of a quick rush through a couple of major issues. And Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you or any of your colleagues have any questions for me. I'm happy to answer them, and up until the point that you pull out the hook and yank me off stage.
Thank you, George. You have a question? The county center was transformed into a makeshift hospital. Is that going to stay viable in case we have a second wave?
Yeah, the plan is for that to stay as is through the end of the year. We'd like to get it back for the basketball season, assuming there is a high school basketball season. We went to a lot of effort to have it used as the home for Section 1 after a couple of years of not being the home for Section 1 finals. But we think that if there is a second wave, it comes in the fall, and having those additional 110 hospital bedrooms, all ICU compatible, will be helpful. And some folks say, well, we haven't had anybody in there yet, and I hope we don't have to use it. If we never have to use it, then at least the money helped us avoid what happened in Italy and in Spain and a couple of other places where the wave hit them and they didn't have enough hospital capacity. We survived the first wave. At our peak hospitalization, we were, as I said, 1,200. We have 3,000 beds in Westchester County. And then we were concerned that other areas didn't have as many beds and we might get their overflow, but it didn't happen. But we are going to hold on to that through the end of the year with the state. And as I said, we'll see how it plays out.
Thank you. Anybody else have any? County Executive? George, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Friends, good to see you. And I'm sure I'll see you in person somewhere up and down the line, maybe at one of these opening restaurants. That'd be nice.
Good night, George.
Thanks,
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. The next item on the agenda is communication to the board. And I see Mr. Tippett has his hand up. Hands up. Baby, hands up. His virtual hand up.
Glenn, turn on your mic. I am with you now. How are you?
Glenn.
A couple of things. Premier was just here. Your actual number is for Westchester County. Your sales tax was down 19% from last year. That was Westchester County alone, and that included, of course, the 1% increase. So that's the type of number that you're looking at. That was announced by New York State. Westchester County sales tax revenue for May of this year was down 19% from last year. So I'm sure you're going to have to do a number crunching on that. Talked about the police department. Agree totally, but you got to have to start with having the police department actually communicate with the community. Been saying this for years. I'm going to say it at every single meeting. The police chief ought to be here giving quarterly reports. If you actually go on the Mamaroneck Police Department information, the last report they gave on crime statistics was 2016, during the Obama administration. That is ridiculous. There is no reason why we can't get information from our police department. The police chief ought to be here on a regular basis to ask questions. Do we integrate with our health center for people who do have mental problems in the village? Is there an outreach if you know that there is a home where you have a problemed individual with the police and social services and our mental health center? Training. Do we give non-lethal training to our police officers? As of right now, do we train to decelerate situations? A lot of this might be done. What is our community outreach right now? What is our communication with the different sections of the village right now? And I'm sure there's people in the village who at times would like to ask a member of the police department in a public forum why certain policies are being done or a problem that they might have in the community. There's no reason to keep from having problems is to be proactive, not to have to react after an incident happened. That's what we're looking to do. That's what Black Lives Matters is all about. That's what everybody's life matter is all about. You have to be proactive. The police community has to integrate your mental health center, social workers, community outreach. And it can't just be once a year you show up at the local church, the local leaders all give a nice speech that nobody ever hears. It has to be here in a public format where the entire village progress is going on with our police department. A couple other quick ones. The 50-foot setback law, you need to change that ASAP. You now have an incident where somebody was looking to do a reconstruction of their property. The part of the property being reconstructed was outside of the 50-foot zone, yet the zoning board isn't sure if the law encompasses this or not. They actually have the building inspector coming to explain why he said that it doesn't. The way they interpret it, you have two members that say yes, two members that say maybe, one member that says no. It can be interpreted two ways. Nobody on the planning board right now knows how to interpret the 50-foot setback law the way it's written. The only thing they all agree on, it was a poorly written law, and that you, the trustees and mayor, has to do something about it. And if the findings go wrong, you may just have another lawsuit on your hands. Has to be addressed immediately. You also have to address the multi-dwellings law. You have two other projects that would be encumbered by it depending on how that is, because I warned you when you passed all these laws that when you interact one law with the other, you wind up completely restricting. And the way the multi-dwelling law looks, if it is interpreted a certain way, the other two projects that you have right now, the old Honda property and the East Prospect property both would not pass the multi-dwellings law. So you would have no construction going on in the village at all at this point, because the interlocking laws prevent anybody from actually developing anything. So you as a board have to look at what you passed and figure out how to fix it, because right now you are either having the building inspector say, yeah, it's all right, and the board's questioning it, or the boards are going to say the inspector's wrong and the developers are probably going to sue the village. Address these problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn.
No one else has their hand up? Okay.
No one else has their hand up.
We will go to the audit of the bills. There are no public hearings tonight. We go to the audit of the bills. Pardon me. Resolution authorizing budget transfers for over budget account. Okay, we have this in front of us, the resolution, and there are really almost like 3 resolutions. There's money from contingent snow removal and traffic violations to law services contract to cover Mr. Leventhal's invoices. This is $93,986. And then there's another transfer from safety inspection buildings of $3,120 to emergency tenant protection. And then the last is serial bond interest, serial bond of the water fund interest, serial bond of the sewer fund interest, and sanitary sewer contract services. We're transferring money to bond anticipation notes. Oh, would you explain this one? Because I know you're the band man.
Yeah, absolutely. We project out what our bond anticipation note expenditures are going to be towards the next fiscal year. Some funds we've overestimated, some we underestimated, so we're balancing everything out. We were short $3,984, and we found excess money in sanitary sewer $421, where we're taking from there. So this is a transfer before the board to balance out all of the actual expenditures that were made for serial bond expenditures.
Okay, and this is just end of year housekeeping?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, with that information before us, does anybody want to make a motion?
Just one clarification, it's not just Leventhal, but Abrams as well. So it's because it's 93, total is 93. So it's bundling up all the legal bills.
Okay. Anybody want to make the motion?
So moved.
Second.
Augustino.
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
DeFore,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. The next is the abstract of the audited vouchers, 2B. Okay, I guess this is last year's, right?
That's correct.
So we are paying tonight bills and charges that were incurred in the last fiscal year. And that amount is $388,427.93. Questions or concerns? All right, Mr. Tippett has his hand up. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Yes. I was actually it's for both parts. I saw that $40,000 was taken from contingency for law. And I see we have $98,000 worth of bills under this abstract. Where did we wind up with our legal costs for the year ending 2020? Were we over budget? Were we on budget? Because it seems like we've had a lot of legal bills, especially in the last few months. Thank you.
I don't think we have an answer right now. Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions about this abstract?
No, but we should answer that it's clearly over budget, right? Because of the transfer. I did have a comment, and I've already cleared this with staff, which is bottom of page 3. We have Keller Sessions, which is our engineers. what I asked them was the breakdown, which the breakdown for the 8,692, which I got in an email. I don't have it in top of my head, but everything was clear. And I think it was, we also, I also suggested that we break it down as we have it in the lower, in the top of the page with the legal bills. So, you know, if it's escrow, if it's general engineering, how much it costs. So I don't think it's necessary to make any adjustments now, but I think it'll help us in the future to understand what engineering, and this follows on Jerry's approach to have engineering scope projects, give him an estimate and that's just run through them. I think he can, so that is a good way to just follow the process and then how to follow the bill. So I already cleared my question, my concern here, and I think they can do that in the future. That's all my comments.
Anybody else on the board?
I agree.
Okay. I need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Augustino.
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
DeFour,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Okay, the next abstract is for this year bills, this fiscal year, $1,140,304.39. Anybody on the board have any questions or concerns?
I just noticed we're refunding a lot of parking permits. Is that because people aren't commuting anymore?
Yeah,
Probably.
that's my understanding, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably to point out that the bulk of this is a workers' comp is $1 million.
Yep.
And
you know, when the COVID thing first hit, I was going for a walk one night and there was absolutely no cars in the parking lot at the train station at 7
Right.
o'clock. And I watched the train come in. It was the strangest thing. Nobody got off. It was like, you know, like a ghost town.
Yeah.
So I guess we're picking up.
So if someone buys an annual permit, let me just ask, if someone buys an annual parking permit and then they decide they don't want it, they can get a refund prorated?
Correct. Yes.
That's correct.
If a person moves out of the community or, you know,
Yeah. Or they just decide they don't want it anymore.
yeah, they get laid off.
Do we have I was under the impression we had a waiting list for these parking places.
Say it again.
Do we have a waiting list for these places?
Railroad.
Permits?
Railroad, we have a cap. We don't have a waiting list. There's a cap on railroad permits. Once we hit that cap, we create a waiting list.
Is there currently a waiting list?
Currently, no.
Currently, no.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about the data in here? Glenn has his hand up.
Yeah, I would ask the question, with the parking permits that we're giving out, how close are we to the cap? Are we significantly below the amount of permits that we actually gave out last year? That's another financial matter that we have to know.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Need a motion to accept the bills?
So moved.
seconded.
Richard, second? Okay, great. Augustino.
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
DeFour,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye, thank you. The next item on the agenda. I get it, you know, only problem with using a computer is that sometimes you gotta reboot it. The next item on the agenda is old business resolution authorizing parking spot, the clothing drop off container on Old White Plains. This is for Big Brother. It's on Old White Plains Road, adjacent to St. Vito's. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mayor, except we wouldn't be losing a parking spot. We're putting the donation bin on a grassy portion of the end of that area.
Okay, so it won't affect parking.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
No, I think it's a much better location.
Yeah, and thank you for adding the once a week pickup provision.
Yeah.
Okay. Need a motion from the board?
So move.
Second.
Augustino, sir.
Trustee Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
the floor,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Pardon me. Aye. Okay. Well, new business. Resolution authorizing approval of the Westchester Joint Waterworks Filtration Facility Project. This is what we're approving tonight is the ultraviolet UV treatment facility. This is one of the things that the United States EPA wants all surface water to be treated to get rid of sporidium. I knew Mr. Stonoff would know.
I didn't say it.
It was me.
Okay.
I'm the water and sewer guy.
And it also will allow us to use less chlorine in the water,
Yeah.
which will cut down on the chlorine problem from overchlorinating.
Mhm.
Somebody have any questions or concerns?
I have a
80,000 that we would bond as part of our bonding.
We could bond it, or we could take it out of the water fund.
The way the resolution is prepared,
Either
provides
way.
the board with the option to fund it through either way.
I mean, do we have a sense of what we're going to do, or is it just leaving our options open?
I think that's how it's usually, I think we usually, if you look historically, it gets bonded, but I think if we prepared a resolution in this fashion, I think it's kind of a template.
And we don't have any choice. We have to do this, so.
Yeah, you have to do it, yeah. The EPA requires it for all, this is Rye Lake, right? This isn't 22. We have two supplies, Rye Lake and Shaft 22. They want redundancy. So like there's going to be a time in the future where Shaft 22 gets taken out of service to be maintained. So it hasn't been maintained in, I don't know, 100 years. So then we're all going to be dependent upon Rye Lake. So it's something that is required by the.
Mayor, is this one of the projects that was in the 5-year capital plan, capital?
Yes.
That they came and presented to us earlier in the year?
Yeah, and it works hand in glove with the filtration plant.
I'm opening it now.
Anybody else have any questions or concerns about it?
My question is, I don't see it in the list. Is this something additional?
No, they talked about it.
The list has 5 things on it. It has the Rye Lake UB filtration facility. That's an 8 million. So this is not it.
Yes, it is. It's the.
Oh, okay. No, this is not it. This is the infrastructure modification. Okay. Okay, now I get it. Now I understand. That was my problem. That in our presentation at the beginning of the year, it was tagged as 750. Now it is 650.
650.
and we have to pay 27%, so it's 180. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. It was the second piece of that projects for 2020, and I think we discussed that will be bonded.
Yeah.
Yep,
You know,
okay.
just the 27.69%, just so people know, that's based upon communities' water usage. It's not based upon like a per capita. It's not based upon how many people are in the community. It's all based upon water usage in the community. Just as a point of clarification for people watching at home. Okay, I think we have a hand up from Mr. Tippett.
Yeah, is the, if you bonded, is the bond paid from revenues generated through the water fund?
Yes.
Right.
And the second one is, I had mentioned it a while ago. Maybe you can have the budget committee look at it. I think we should also look about replacing whatever pipes we have to have left to be replaced in the town and do it as one large bond. When you have the interest rate this low, I think you should have the budget committee do the numbers. You may find out that you're actually going to be saving money per year from year one if you actually just do the entire project and get it done.
Thank you.
Do it proactively.
Proactively. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, I need a motion on this.
So moved.
Second.
Augustino.
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
DeFour,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. The next is resolution authorizing back pay owed to a village employee. Jerry, you want to explain this?
Mayor, during a routine year-end, starting of a new year cycle review, we come across an employee at the sanitation department that had not received his negotiated raise for several years. And so this authorization allows us to pay him his back pay owed.
I'm totally in support of paying this gentleman what we owe, but having been a shop steward for 20-something years, I have guys call me when they're missing a dime out of their check.
Mr. Gentile is a fantastic person.
Murder. I can't believe this poor guy let it go to be $22,000.
So we want to make good on his.
Oh, without doubt. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
No, I'm glad you caught it. It drives home the point that we needed a human resources department for a long time in this village. So glad and happy day for Mr. Gentile.
Yeah. We'll spend it all in one place.
Yeah.
So we're taking 22,000 from appropriated fund balance from this year, right? From 2021. Okay. Let's just let's keep the tab current.
Absolutely.
Today is small, but as it goes adds up, then it'll be good, useful to review it when we get this, not at the day of the meeting.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I need a motion. Okay, Mr. Gentile.
So moved.
I'll second. Augustino.
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
DeFour,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Okay. Christie up. Hi, Christie. This is resolution regarding scheduling a public hearing for discontinuing a portion of East Old White Plains Road. A proposal to discontinue a portion of East Old White Plains Road in order to establish a permitted parking lot. Christie, do you want to speak on this?
Sure. So this was an initiative through Jerry and Dan to discontinue a small portion. It's the dead-end portion of East Old White Plains Road to turn it into a permitted parking lot. And so I have helped them with the process to do so, which part of it is that the Board of Trustees Trustees needs to hold a public hearing to discuss the proposed demapping. So this is the resolution to schedule that public hearing. I want to note that Jerry and I did discuss a date. We are hopeful that the board would, or at least I believe this is more Jerry is hopeful that the board would like to hold the public hearing over Zoom. If the board decides not to do so, the hearing will have to be, the date of the hearing will have to be changed on the resolution to likely September, October, when you'll be holding meetings in person. But I did want to note that. And then also keep in mind that the resolution lists this as a type 2 action. I believe we put routine or continuing administration and management. If we find out differently at the public hearing that we think that it'll have a different environmental effect, we can reassess seeker at that point. But as of right now, we feel that it's a type 2.
Okay, I just want to, for the public, you all know that Old White Plains Road, as you're going through the village, gets elevated to pass over I-95. But if you look next to it, I guess it used to be, before the freeway was there, it used to continue straight on a level plane, and now it ends at the freeway wall adjacent to where St. Vito's is, and it's just a dead end up against the wall. So that's the area we're talking about. We're not talking about taking Old White Plains Road itself out of commission. This is a little spur that was left over from the freeway project back in whatever it was, the 50s. So I'm fine with that. On July 13th. Is the rest of the board fine with that?
It would be parking that we would charge for.
It would be
Would it be metered, or would it be permit parking?
Permit parking.
Because it's used for church parking a lot. So how would that work?
We would exclude the Sunday, so there wouldn't be any.
Exclude the Sunday, okay. And then the other thing is, the governor hasn't extended the executive order, so we could be meeting. We might. I mean, I guess I'm hoping he'll do it, but if he doesn't, we can't have a Zoom meeting on July 13th.
No, we would be having a regular meeting.
Yeah.
We would be having a regular meeting.
Nora, this issue of Zoom meetings and the governor's extending the order came up in the county call this afternoon. And last time the governor just, extended it at the last minute. There's no one who anticipated that we're going to start with a public meeting.
No.
We even discussed that maybe, could the county request that these deadlines go, to September 1st, but they can't because his executive order can only be 30 days. So it's anticipated that it will be extended and that we'll be on Zoom, but that's where we are.
Just don't know. Right.
Even though we had discussed, not holding public meetings by Zoom early on in this, I think it would be good to get this started. There's no reason that we would have to close the public hearing July 13th if there are people who want to weigh in and we feel like they haven't had a chance. But as people have gotten used to this a little bit, I understand the argument that maybe it makes sense to schedule a public hearing sooner rather than wait until things normalize, because I don't know when that's going to happen.
I think one thing is, I think we should have to figure out a way of getting notifications to people in that neighborhood, because I think that's the population of people who'd be most interested in it. So whether we can do some flyers or post the kind of sign that we post, we require applicants to post for land use boards, just publicize it.
That's
a great idea. Post it in the parking lot.
Yeah, we can put that up.
Yeah, I think that would make it
a
better option.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion on this?
So moved.
Second.
Augustino?
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
Tefor,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Thank you, board. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Christy.
Thanks, Christy.
Okay. And the next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing agreement for use of a boat slip by Save the Sound. Save the Sound is located, their offices are here in the village of Mamaroneck. They have historically had a slip in Harbor Island Park, in the marina in Harbor Island Park, where they go out into the Sound and do research And I think in whole, this is a benefit to the community to allow them to have a slip. But the only entity that can allow that is the Board of Trustees. That's why it's before us tonight. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
This was on the work session. We didn't get to it.
It wasn't on the work session.
It was on the previous work session
We talked about it.
where governmental entities would be approved without going to the board, but other entities would have to come to the board. That was discussed.
Right, but I mean, this was for our work session today.
It wasn't on the work session.
It
wasn't?
was.
No,
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Yes. It was item
We didn't
2D.
get- unfortunately, we didn't get
No,
to it.
2E.
Oh, I'm sorry. 2E.
That's,
We talk about it now?
we have a meeting. I hate to delay. This is urgent because we do have a meeting a week from today. Because that's how, that's the procedure. I hate to say it because I
know. It is.
I hate to be the one bracing it, but I also have to, because I know I actually see it could be I see also Mr. Linderoff on the participants list as I just turned on this, so he's probably interested and he wants to get this resolved. But it's our that's how it should be discussed in work session first. So it's just a week. We can certainly deal with it. One of the first item on Monday. And approve it, make it an action. But let's follow our rules. That's my take, and I hate to say it because it's, I know they do, I know this is water sampling. I know how important it is, especially now everybody wants to jump in the water and how vital the work is, but I also have to just, especially because I know them.
Where is it on the work session?
It was item 2E.
Water-
Edward.
Waterlogging. It says
2E.
I said, you know what? That's my mistake. I should have done it on a regular meeting. I honestly didn't see that. And I usually always do the regular meeting stuff.
I should have.
What? Mr. Peter has his hand up. Let's give Peter a.
Pete, unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Peter.
Oh, good. It's nice to digitally see you all doing well. So I just wanted to just hear what I said. So it sounds like we're in pretty good shape for this, although I know you would all like to discuss it at a work session. We have the boat slip, which the Village of Mamaroneck has graciously given us for the past 3 years. Thank you for making this kind of an official item on this agenda. We also have a dissolved oxygen logger that goes out in sort of an unused portion of the dock. If I heard Victor correctly, Trustee Tefor, did you say that would be next Monday that the slip would be discussed in more detail?
We have a meeting next week because we didn't raise it today. I would agree to get it approved in the work session on Monday.
Okay. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Just 1 week, but just to follow our rules, that's why I say I hate to impose it on you, but I know you very well, so I know I think you'll know you'll agree that we have to follow the rules.
Yes, no, of course. So for the slip, absolutely, you have to follow the rules. I completely agree. So for the slip, we also use an unused portion of the dock for a dissolved oxygen logger. That's not really boat related, and if possible. I'd like to start talking with Harbor Master Russo about that in advance of Monday, because we'd like to get it in the month of June if we're going to go with the same location we've gone with for the past 3 years. If I can't get it in by then, I may need to move it, or I'll be out of compliance with our EPA quality assurance project plan. So I don't know if that's okay, if we need to vote on putting the logger in the water in an unused portion. If Jerry can just kind of say, Harbor Master Russo, it's okay to set that up with Peter, or if that also needs to be discussed at the working session.
Yeah, I feel bad because this was a mistake that I made. And I'm almost always good on making sure things run for the regular meeting. I mean, I would request that we vote to suspend the rules on this one item, just to get him in the water, because it was one of these things that was no fault of his own. So I would hope that we could, this isn't like something that's controversial, and I don't hear, there's going to be a lot of pushback. So I'd rather, I understand following the rules, I really do, and I wasn't trying to circumvent the rules. This was just an oversight on my part. So I would hope that at one time we could, give this gentleman a break and let him do the good work that helps the village.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Mayor Murphy. And if the board is okay with that, certainly I would be as well. But if there was a way to just let me start the discussions with Joe Russo on the logger specifically, which doesn't go in a boat slip, that would actually be really helpful. And I'm more than happy to wait a week on the boat slip if you all would like to discuss that in the working session. But that being said, I'd be fine with getting them both worked through. That's of course on the boards.
I'd be willing to suspend the rules because I think we did make a mistake, and this is something, it's also a new process that we've been having. But my other question is, what has to happen with this extra boat at the end of the dock? Can Jerry answer that? Is that another permission that needs to be required?
I don't think it's a boat, Nora. I think it's just a water logger. I think it's a piece of equipment. Is that correct, Peter?
Yeah, that's right. So we would like to bring our boat in, and we've had a slip in the East Basin where we keep our little kind of secondary Boston whaler, which really helps us out with staff time and reducing fuel costs. So we don't have to bring our bigger boat up from the city islands. But the logger in itself is quite literally a logger that goes underwater. You don't see it.
Yeah.
And it's basically attached to a cinder block, and it's got a barometric pressure logger topside, and it goes somewhere where there's not a boat. It's an unused portion of the dock completely. That is what I'd love to move forward with this week, because it takes some time to work with Joe, and I don't want to rush it, but I also need to get it in by June if we're going to go with that same spot. And June, of course, is coming to a close.
So Jerry, is that something that the board has to approve, or is that something that you can approve?
I can.
Okay.
There wouldn't be any fee related to allowing Save the Sound to put a logger in. It would just be an agreement that we would know where it's going and how long it's going to go for, those kinds of things.
There's no fee to waive.
Yeah, it's the boat slip that the board should authorize to provide Save the Sound and other entities, non-governmental entities.
They need some approval from us to use our property. Why don't we split the baby? Why don't we I know doesn't sound good. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I apologize. Let's approve the boat slip, or let's consider the boat slip because, and I just had a question, is that yearly or is it into the future? Is it yearly, every year, or is it now, or are we doing it just per entity? Jerry?
You can do a term, but you can do a term of more than 1 year, but typically these things are yearly.
This is yearly. Okay, so the vote is 1 year. And why don't you discuss the other issue with your harbor master? He's very sensitive about his deck, his docks, and if it's just your purview, the village manager will approve it. If it needs to come to us, it could be as quick as next week. So we're being expeditious. I would be okay with that.
Okay, so do the slip.
Sorry for my expression.
Well, the resolution, that's not splitting the baby. The resolution is just about the slip anyway. So I think that we would just suspend the rules and then vote on the slip.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and to approve the resolution. And I apologize.
Second.
This is totally my fault.
Second.
Augustino.
Trustees Winstrup?
This is to suspend the rules only.
And
No, is it?
suspend
Yeah.
resolution.
I use both at the same time.
Okay, can I ask the applicant then a question?
Let me amend this.
Thanks.
I make a motion to suspend the rules having to do with items being on the work session before they're voted upon.
Second.
Oh, okay. Augustino.
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
the four,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Now I make a motion that we approve the provision of the agreement for the use of the boat slip by the folks that Save the Sound for a year.
I have a question, actually, if we're gonna, I had a question for the work session if we had addressed it. I would like to know, does Save the Sound have other boats? Are they kept in Connecticut? I mean, do they get free slips from other municipalities or from marinas? Or are we the only one giving a free slip? I would just like a little background.
Sure. Yeah, of course. We have multiple boats. We do have a slip in Bridgeport that Soundkeeper Lucy maintains. That's given to us free of charge. We've had slips in parts of Queens that have been given to us free of charge. So it's certainly not out of the norm. We're working in City Island, and soon I'm sure we'll have a slip there free of charge. Usually we get to know the municipality, the people working in it, and they appreciate what we do as the Village of Mamaroneck. I mean, as you all expressed, and the residents do to us as well. And it really helps us as a nonprofit to redirect funds that would be spent there to help sustain other efforts.
So, Mayor, can I just jump in here to clarify something?
Sure.
Because the village can't give away give away something to a not-for-profit. Okay, so that's why there has to be an agreement.
Yeah.
But the agreement can be simply the village allows Save the Sound to dock its boat in this slip, and Save the Sound agrees to share the information that it develops with the village.
I think that's in the resolution, Bob.
Yeah, and that's sufficient. I just want to make the record clear that you're not giving anything away for nothing, which would be improper.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, I made the motion.
Second.
Augustino.
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
the four,
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. And Peter, I'm sorry about the confusion.
No, that's all right, Mayor Murphy. I really appreciate you all acting on it today as well. So, Jerry, maybe I'll follow up with you and Joe, and we could just move things forward. It sounds like the logger, being that it's not at a slip, is something that we can also just move forward as well.
Peter, just follow up with me, and then I'll explain the situation.
To Joe?
Yeah. No, I'll explain the situation down at the harbor. Just follow up with me tomorrow or the next day will be fine.
Okay, will do. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All right, have a nice evening, everyone. Thank you very
Bye,
much.
Peter. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our new business. Communication to the board, round two. Of course, Glenn. Avail yourself.
A couple of things. We're talking about boating. Why do seniors get a 15% discount on the boating and it's not means tested?
What?
And we're talking about, we live in a community where we have haves and we have have-nots. And it seems to me we have boating rate for community, for residents, we have a boating rate for non-residents, and then we have an extra 15% for senior residents. And why isn't that means tested? Because why would we give 15% to somebody who's a millionaire?
I think that happens in a lot of senior citizen situations.
I know, but it doesn't make it right, especially when you're talking about this age, the climate you're looking at of the haves and have-nots. It says there's no problem with programs, but you have to be aware that having programs that 50% of the village can't take advantage of because they're not in that position isn't fair either.
It's a valid point.
Something to think outside of the box on.
Thank you.
The tree law I was looking at, can we add a line where the village manager or person assigned by village manager can do tree inspections if there is a problem with a tree? Because I think having the village manager look at trees in this community is a complete waste of time. I think that he could very easily appoint somebody to represent the village in order to see the condition of trees. Is there any provision for when we have a sanding incident and we have trees down all over the community? How do you enforce the I killed the tree law? Are we gonna have, is there any provision at all? You know, we have like this provision, if you put nails in the tree, if you take the bark, if you do this, how is that even enforceable? I mean, are we gonna have tree autopsies, and who pays for the tree autopsy? And then you have 3 trees over 5 years. Again, how is that enforceable? I cut down a tree this year. I cut down a tree in 2 years. Then I cut down a tree in another 18 months. So I cut down 3 trees in 4.5 years. How is that enforceable? Who's going to know when I cut? I think the law should look at clear cutting. That's what you're trying to prevent. There's no way to enforce. There's no way to enforce if I kill a tree. We're not going to have Quincy coming in and do tree autopsies. And who, you know, who's going to sit there and say, oh, you took down 1 tree in 1997, 1 tree in 1999, 1 tree in the year 2000. So you're within 48 months of the 5 years. Make the law simpler. That the law is, I mean, I read it, it's so long, so convoluted that there's nobody's going to understand it in the village to start with. Go town of Mamaroneck. Clear cut. If you're looking to remove this many trees on a project, you have to go before the board, whoever you want, the tree committee, whoever you want, and speak to them about tree removal. But when you start to get into the nuances of 3 trees in 5 years, if you're going to kill a tree, you can't pass stuff that's completely unenforceable. I don't know how you would enforce if somebody wanted to kill a tree on their property. I really don't. So something to think about. And I still love you guys. I'm mad at you for the 5-minute rule, but I still love you. Keep working hard. Have a good night.
Thank you. I just want to.
Thank you, Glenn.
The Declaration of Independence, the Gettysburg Address was 272 words. It took 2.5 minutes to say. And it explained why there was a civil war, what had happened in the Civil War, what would be the progress of the Civil War, and how we would end up in peace. So I just want to say I use that as an exemplar of how you can say things with brevity and precision. I've always wanted to say that. Thank you. And but me of Mr. Capalla, right?
Yes.
Jason wants to say something. Jason, are you on?
Unmute your mic, Jason. Jason, unmute your mic.
Jason from MEMS, you have your hand up?
How about now? Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Jason, before you begin, can I just say I apologize for not getting to you. I know you were on before, and at the work session that's going to be next Monday, I would be happy to do MEMS first to get it out of the way because you waited patiently. But I don't want to keep you from talking, but I just want to get that out there.
All right, no worries, understood. Thank you. I was just kind of hoping we can go tonight. I'm not available next Monday. My whole thing should take maybe 1 minute.
Well, yeah, say what you need, Jason.
Well, I'm here at the request of the board, so I was hoping maybe you guys had questions for me regarding the patio project.
I don't think we're prepared for that right now, Jason. Darn it. You can't come Monday?
No, I can't. I'm sorry. I freed up tonight specifically for this.
Does anybody have any?
What I would suggest is that we suspend the rules again, because if he was waiting and we didn't see him, like, we would have taken him. So this is one of the pitfalls of Zoom. You don't see people in the audience. So
I would second suspending rules.
What?
I would agree with you to suspend the rules.
So the question is, can everybody go back to their work session?
We're gonna have a vote on suspending the rules.
What?
Let's vote on suspending the rules. I second it.
Okay.
Augie, call roll.
Trustee Winstrup,
You know, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote out of an abundance of caution. Overabundance of caution.
Trustee Natchez,
Yes.
Trustee Lucas,
Yes.
Trustee Tofer,
Yes, let's discuss it, but I have to, I would need a few minutes to go and pick up the packet. I don't have it. I mean, actually, that's why I think I already took this out.
Jason, why don't we do this, Jason? Why don't you just tell us what you wanted to tell us?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. I just wanted to give you.
I'm sorry if I can interrupt. I'm going to mute myself and stop the video of myself so that I'm not participating at all.
Go ahead, Jason.
Okay. I just wanted to give you a brief update on our status at EMS before we just talk about the patio request. I'll try to be about a minute or so. Over the past couple of months, we responded to over the last year, we responded to 1,700 calls for assistance. These last couple of months, our 65 volunteers have responded to several hundred calls for COVID-19. Several of our volunteers have become ill. Some of them have been hospitalized, but we are continuing to provide the service to the village. We are checking out a new ambulance to replace our old one. For those of you that are not aware, as an agency, we provide all our own vehicles through no cost to the village, the town, or the taxpayers. We do all fundraising in-house and provide our own apparatus. The reason I'm here tonight, I was working with Jerry. We have a $10,000 building repair budget line that we have been encumbering to fix our patio. We spent no money in fiscal year 2018. We spent no money in fiscal year 2019. And we are looking to repair the patio, which was heavily destroyed when our generator was installed, I believe, in 2016. We've provided the three quotes to Jerry. The lowest one comes in at $18,190. That's $1,800 under our $10,000 a year. And we're looking for the support of the board and approval to get this project started.
Okay. All right, you know, it's not on the agenda to approve tonight. You've made your piece, and we will take it up at the work session on Monday. But we know how you feel about it, and you've had a chance to introduce it to us.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. And thank you, Board of Trustees.
And Jason, thank you and your whole crew for everything you do. I know this must have been a horrible time for you folks. And we appreciate it. And we couldn't have done it without you and the gang. So thank everybody for us.
Absolutely. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. There was another gentleman with his hand up.
Louise, unmute yourself.
Mr. Quiros?
Can I come on now? Sort of confusing listening to when I could talk and not talk, because like you said, we're not in front of you, so we can't see our hands up like it used to be. A comment, Mr. Mayor, just a little side comment on the Gettysburg Address. It might have lasted 2.5 minutes, the shortest speech ever, but the Civil War is still on, and some of us would resent to those 2.5 minutes that hasn't shut down the purpose of the Civil War. As it relates to what I called for, in regard to the Goldstein matter, I am requesting that you put a statement out as to when you learned in 2019 that Cindy was under investigation and why you waited 6 months to call public hearing when transparency is so important. It seems very suspect to me that you waited until a few days after the Hampshire vote to call the hearing. The hearing should have been last December. again, I'm going back to transparency. Please show more transparency and put a statement out as to your action. We need that kind of government.
Okay. Thank you. Vanessa?
Is Doria Locker?
Okay, this will be about center. Go ahead.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's Daria. So I wanted to ask, like to follow up with the previous, I guess, questioner. And I wanted to ask the mayor about when he first learned that Cindy Goldstein was under ethics investigation, because we know that the ethics board ruled in November, but I imagine I'm not the only person who wants to know when you first learned of it, such as the previous speaker, because I feel like the timeline cannot be totally explained by the COVID crisis. So I'd like.
Well, this is all a matter that's currently in litigation, so I'm not going to comment upon that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Report from the village manager.
Mayor, all I have is a couple of items for the record. One of them is the planning services contract with AKRF to fill in the gap between when Mr. Cutler left and when our new planner comes in, as well as the executed order on consent, which I just realized only has my signature on this copy, but we have both signatures, myself and the individuals from the DEC. So I'll make sure that that's corrected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Augie?
Yes, Mayor, just a reminder that first half tax payments are due for the month of June.
Okay, and the folks who are getting their water bill, you will see that there's a reminder to participate in the census. So please fill out your census forms. Mr. Village Attorney?
Nothing from me tonight, Mayor.
All right. Tonight we have minutes of the Board of Trustees special meeting of May 18th and a work session, the regular meetings of May 26th and a public hearing of May 27th to report. Just to remind everybody, tomorrow, this community in Westchester County and the Mid-Hudson region will be entering phase 3 reopening. What that means is that indoor dining can resume at 50% capacity with tables at least 6 feet apart. So hopefully our restaurants will get back into the swing of things. Personal care facilities are also reopening at 50% capacity with proper social distancing. That's personal care includes massage therapies, spas, cosmetology, nail specialty, UV and non-UV tanning facilities, and the ever popular tattoo parlors. I just want to make everybody aware of that. Hopefully we're opening up little by little, but that doesn't mean that we should relax and stop being proactive when it comes to COVID. Please wash your hands often. Please maintain social distancing, and people who aren't in your social group, please wear a mask whenever you cannot maintain social distancing, and please just use common sense. That's it for tonight. And the next meeting is, we'll have a special meeting next week on the 29th. And then we have a meeting on July 13th. So please enjoy your summer and be careful. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Everybody.
Night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.